Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're taking a look at comparing fractions.
Ooh, fractions. Sounds tricky.
Well, they can be, but this time we're looking at a really cool resource.
Hmm?
It's actually an interactive applet on a website that's all about open educational resources.
Very cool.
Yeah, and you might think fractions are kind of basic stuff,
Right?
but this applet, it's not just for kids, I promise.
Oh, good.
It's designed to help anyone really visualize and understand what it means to compare fractions,
Oh, think that.
no matter what your skill level is.
Yeah, it's so important to make learning accessible, you know?
Absolutely. And what's really neat is the applet is embedded right there on the page.
Really?
So you can actually follow along with us as we talk about it.
I love that.
We'll be sure to put the link in the show notes as well.
Perfect.
So, sometimes when we talk about comparing fractions, it can seem kind of abstract.
Yeah.
But this applet uses visuals to really make it clear. So imagine you have two pizzas, right? One cut into thirds and the other cut into sixths.
Okay, I'm with you, Pete. I'm listening.
Now, just by looking at those pizzas, you can see that 1/3 is bigger than 1/6, right?
Yeah.
Even though the numbers themselves might seem confusing, the visual representation just makes it obvious.
Right. You see it right there.
And that's exactly what this applet does.
I see.
It lets you play around with all sorts of different fractions
Mhm.
and see how their sizes compare.
Cool.
You get those aha moments when something just clicks.
Yes, exactly.
And the fact that it's interactive makes it even more powerful, right?
Absolutely.
You're not just passively watching.
Yeah.
You're actively exploring and manipulating the fractions yourself.
So you're really learning by doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, and they even tagged it for both primary and secondary education,
Interesting.
which shows how versatile this resource is.
Yeah,
You know,
for sure.
it can help learners at all different stages.
And speaking of reaching different learners, I was super impressed to see that the applet is compatible with all sorts of different devices.
Oh, yeah, I saw that, yeah.
Chromebook laptops,
Uh-huh.
even phones and tablets.
It's amazing.
You could be learning about fractions anywhere, literally anywhere.
I love that. And it's so cool how they've made this resource accessible
Yeah.
to basically anyone with an internet connection.
Hmm.
But you know what else I found interesting? They have a whole section for other resources,
Oh, really?
including links to Jiwaraba.
Ah, Jiwaimara. Okay.
Have you heard of that?
I have, yeah.
It's a request.
dynamic mathematics software.
Yes,
That
exactly.
opens up a whole other world of possibilities for
Absolutely.
exploring fractions.
You can create all sorts of visual representations, manipulate geometric constructions, graphs, even 3D models.
So it's like taking this interactive learning to a whole other level.
It really is.
Yeah.
It highlights how technology can really enhance learning,
Absolutely.
even for something as fundamental as fractions.
Oh. And the fact that this is all part of the open educational resource movement,
It's really inspiring.
it really is.
It means these incredible learning tools are freely available to anyone,
Yeah.
regardless of their background
I love that.
or location.
It's fantastic.
It's really making education accessible to everybody.
It really is. It's very powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
This is really making me think about all the ways we can use technology to make learning, more engaging and accessible for everyone.
It is, yeah. And while we've been focusing on the visuals, this applet covers a lot of ground when it comes to different concepts related to fractions.
Oh, really?
Like, it goes beyond just comparing sizes.
Okay.
It touches on equivalent fractions, for example.
Equivalent fractions.
Yeah, that's where two fractions might look different,
Right.
but they actually represent the same amount, like 12 and 24.
I remember learning about equivalent fractions.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that just didn't click for me right away.
It can be tricky.
Yeah.
But this applet, it helps you see it, You can visualize how dividing something into a different number of pieces doesn't always change the overall amount.
So you could actually use the applet to find equivalent fractions for a given fraction.
Exactly.
It's neat.
And it even delves into mixed numbers and improper fractions.
Oh, wow.
Those are concepts that can often trip people up.
Yeah, for sure.
But with the visual aids, they become much easier to grasp.
It's amazing how these visuals can make such a difference.
It really is.
One thing that really stood out to me was how they connected fractions to real-world situations.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah, they talked about fractions representing a part of a set of objects.
Okay.
So instead of just thinking about slices of pizza, you could think about, say, a bag of marbles,
Oh, okay.
where a certain fraction are red.
Right.
So it's not just abstract symbols anymore.
Yeah, it's like suddenly fractions aren't just these abstract symbols.
Exactly.
They're tools for understanding the world around us.
Yeah. I like that. That's what's so exciting about this resource is not just teaching you about fractions in isolation. It's showing you how they connect to everyday life.
Yeah, when I was in school, I used to get so confused by fractions with different denominators.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you even begin to compare 23 and 58?
It can be tough. It can be a head scratcher for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
But the applet actually helps with that too. It shows you different strategies for comparing fractions.
Like what?
Well, one common method is finding a common denominator.
Right.
So you would convert 23 and 58 into fractions that have the same denominator.
Okay.
Then you can easily compare the numerators.
Right.
Makes sense, right?
It does, but finding a common denominator can be kind of a pain sometimes.
It can be, but the applet walks you through it
Oh, no.
step by step.
Okay.
And it shows you visually what's happening.
So it takes away some of that mystery.
Exactly. And it even touches on using a number line to visualize and compare fractions.
A number line.
That's a really powerful tool, especially for understanding the relative size of fractions.
Oh, yeah. I remember using those in school.
Yeah.
It's amazing how something so simple can make such a big difference in understanding fractions.
Sometimes the simplest tools are the best.
Yeah. And, speaking of making things clear, I have to say the interactive nature of this applet is a game changer.
It really is.
Being able to manipulate the fractions
Yeah.
and see how the visuals change in real time, it just makes it so much more engaging.
Absolutely.
It's not just reading a textbook
Right.
or listening to a lecture.
You're actively participating in the learning process.
Exactly. I love that.
I completely agree. And it's that active engagement that really helps solidify those concepts in your mind. When you're actively exploring, experimenting,
You remember it more.
you're much more likely to remember what you've learned.
Makes sense.
And this applet wouldn't be possible without the open educational resource movement. It's really incredible to think that someone created this amazing learning tool and made it freely available
I know, it's amazing.
to anyone with an internet connection.
It's truly democratizing education.
It is.
It's giving everyone, regardless of their background or resources, access to high-quality learning materials.
And it's not just limited to mathematics.
Oh, really?
This kind of interactive visual learning can be applied to countless other subjects.
Like what?
Imagine exploring historical timelines through interactive maps,
Oh, wow.
or dissecting virtual organisms in a biology simulation.
That would be amazing.
It really opens up a whole world of possibilities for how we can make learning more engaging and more effective.
This applet is a fantastic example, but it's really just a glimpse into the future of education.
It is.
So much potential out there.
So much potential. It really gets you thinking about how we can apply these principles of visual and interactive learning to other areas. What stands out to you as the most valuable part of this approach?
Yeah, it really is. It just makes you think about all those possibilities,
It really does.
For me, I think the most valuable part is the way it just demystifies these concepts.
Right.
They can seem intimidating at first.
Yeah.
Like, I remember fractions were a struggle for me when I was younger.
For sure.
But seeing them visually like this, being able to manipulate them,
Mm-hmm.
seeing how they relate to each other,
Yeah.
it makes everything so much clearer.
It takes the fear out of learning,
It really does.
And it lets people learn at their own pace
Yeah,
in a way that makes sense to them.
exactly. And it's not even just about, understanding the concepts themselves.
Right.
It's also about developing this deeper appreciation
Mm-hmm.
for how they actually connect to the real world.
Absolutely.
Like suddenly you start seeing fractions everywhere
Yeah.
and you realize, wow, they're actually useful
Totally.
in everyday life.
It's those aha moments we talked about, but on a larger scale.
It is. It's like seeing the world through a whole new lens.
I love that.
So to anyone listening out there, if you've ever felt intimidated by fractions,
Yeah.
or if you just want to, refresh your understanding,
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend checking out this applet.
For sure.
It's fun, it's engaging, it's a great way to learn.
And it's free.
Completely free. And don't just take our word for it.
Exactly. Experiment.
Yeah, play around with it.
Try different fractions. See how those visuals change.
That hands-on experience, that's what really makes it stick.
It does.
And as you're exploring, we want to leave you with one final question to ponder.
Oh, a question. I like it.
How could you apply this type of interactive visual learning to other areas of your life?
Good question.
Could you create a visual tool to help you budget your money?
Interesting.
Plan a trip,
Okay.
learn a new language.
So many possibilities.
The possibilities really are endless.
They are.
So keep exploring, keep learning.
Yes.
And until next time, remember the world is full of these fascinating connections just waiting to be discovered.
Absolutely. See you next time.